and welcome to Beauty by Numbers. Have you ever wondered how data influences decisions in luxury, fashion and beauty? In this interview series, we will interview some of data's biggest names within the world of luxury, fashion and beauty, offering the audience an incredible insight into how data is harnessed by some of the world's biggest brands. We will talk with data leaders in the industry you all know and love as they share their experiences, knowledge and learnings, shining a light on this fascinating area of data. So let's get into it.
Hey Matt, thank you very much for coming on the Driven by Data beauty and retail series. We're really excited to have you and kind of chat through some of the exciting things that you've been through whilst being a leader in this industry.
Yeah, thanks Emily. It's really excited. I'm really excited to be talking to you today.
Should we start off by kind of set the scene for me? What does a day look like for a kind of data leader in the retail industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and this is probably one of my favorite things about the role is that no day is really the same. There's a lot of variation depending on what you're doing, but I generally will split a day into quarters. One quarter is, immersing myself, in the business, understanding what's happening, primarily looking for exceptions. So where are numbers looking off from where they should be, from the prior day, and then looking at the longer term trends. A quarter of it is working with the data team, so being a leader, a coach, ensuring that everybody is not only focused on the right things, but they have the resources that they need in order to do their job. Roughly a quarter is stakeholder management. So, understanding what is happening throughout the organization, what types of projects we're working on, making sure that information is flowing properly, making sure that everybody has the information that they need in order to make decisions. And then the last quarter is really, focusing on technology and infrastructure. So do we have problems inside of our data pipelines? Is the data coming out reliable? Thinking about longer term projects such as building out data platforms, talking with technology vendors. And so it's really varied. And of course, from day to day, those things will fluctuate. Some days, we'll spend all day, with some type of exception. Sales dropped 85% overnight. And we've got to go and diagnose that and figure it out. And sometimes that turns into a technology problem. Sometimes it turns into a business problem. But it's really about understanding where you're going. I think one of the most important things that a leader can do is really be focused on what those exceptions are, especially if you've hired a great team. The team can focus on the day-to-day while the leader is trying to figure out, what actions do I need to take to make sure that the boat stays on course.
Yeah, of course. At least every day. I can imagine every day is incredibly busy though.
Yeah, that is for sure.
Yeah, and obviously you've worked for some of the biggest brands kind of globally. What are the exciting ways that you've used data in your career?
Yeah, so, I think probably the most exciting thing for me, number one, would be understanding the voice of the customer. What is the customer trying to tell us? And that comes in through a couple different streams of information. One of them is, NPS data or customer survey data. Some companies use NPS. I've primarily used NPS throughout my experience. I always like to read the comments with NPS because you can really pick up the content of what the numbers are trying to tell you. And then looking at other transactional information such as return rates, such as customer service interactions. I think that's probably the most exciting thing that I've done with data throughout my career. Or one of the things that just gets me the most excited is because you can hear directly what your customers are saying, and you can use that to inform strategy. Another area that's really exciting is personalization and really getting into a much better e-commerce situation by using personalization. So, it could be little things like, how do you order elements on the page? How do you change the order of the tabs across the top of the site that makes them more relevant for your customer? And then how can you use data to, reorder the grid so that the product that they're most likely to buy is in that upper left-hand corner, the very first thing that their eye is going to see. And so they don't have to go bouncing all around the site to find the things that they're most likely to buy. I think those are two really exciting ways of using data, especially in a retail e-commerce experience. I'd say the other thing is, and the third thing is about getting more efficient with your operations by using data. If you're in store environment, understanding conversion, traffic flows, matching that up with staffing levels, on the e-commerce side, it tends to be more of marketing optimization. But all of that will feed into a healthier bottom line for the organization.
Yeah, no, 100%, I agree. And in terms of how do you kind of go about building a successful data science and kind of AI team to kind of meet the goals that the business is looking for?
Yeah, and so for me, it's I try and find really, really great talent. When you can hire a few A players onto your team, they can really get a whole lot of stuff done very quickly, and that's what it's all about. And so it's about finding the right talent, making sure that they have the right data in place, and then looking for areas that you can get some success. Showing value to the organization really quickly is a really great way of earning the right to grow your organization and build it out, and therefore give more back to the organization. It just kind of creates a flywheel. Yeah. But it's really about focusing on value delivery.
Yeah. And I know we've spoken before about why kind of 85% of obviously data science projects fail. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, and so I did a really great podcast with Martin last week about this. So that's going to be coming out soon. We spent a whole half hour on this topic. But I think one of the reasons so many projects fail isn't really because of the technology. Sometimes it's because we have a hard time getting the data. But really, it's about working with people out in the business to develop solutions that are solving real-world problems that they're facing. Sometimes we're so focused on reporting that we're not focused on creating that value through some type of innovative solution. And I think it's about being partners, being co-developers, and the tighter you can integrate your data teams with your business teams, the more likely you are to get success and create value with data.
Do you think it's mostly around kind of the difficulty of showing the value that those data science projects kind of have to maybe senior stakeholders?
I don't think it's about showing the value. I think it's about making sure that you're building something that's going to get used. So for instance, if you asked me to build out, let's say my favorite example is a forecasting model, and I go off and work for 3 months on a forecasting model and I bring it back to you. You don't know how I built it, what I've included in there. And really, I should have sat next to you for those 3 months while we're building this thing out together. I bring the data science magic and you bring the business magic. You put those two things together and you're really starting to, build out valuable solutions as opposed to technical solutions in search of a problem sometimes.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, obviously we touched on talent a little bit. How do you think data culture kind of impacts the way that brands are attracting new data science talent?
Yeah, so again, really great question. It comes down to the type of work that data teams are going to be doing. And I think that, teams that are able to offer talent more creative tasks that are not, just creating the same reporting week after week after week are really going to be able to get better talent because data science is really a creative endeavor. We've got the term science in there, but it's really art and science together. and being able to work on problems that are facing the organization, to be a part of the solution and really drive things forward, I think is how you attract really great talent. The other part of that is making sure that they have the right tools and data in place in order to be able to do their jobs. So another reason so many projects fail is because sometimes we have a hard time getting data out of systems, especially for legacy companies that aren't using everything cloud-based, SaaS off the shelf. Those are a lot easier to work with. The harder it is to get at the data you're trying to get at, the harder the project is going to be. Which I think kind of makes intuitive sense. But environments where you are, you're able to kind of clear that path for your data scientists, make much more productive teams, and therefore, success breeds success. And you can really attract really great talent because they're working on really great stuff instead of, hacking through the systems trying to get basic data.
Yeah. No, I can get that. And what do you kind of think are the biggest challenges that are facing the retail industry in the next few years in terms of data?
Yeah, so I think part of it is kind of this transition from legacy systems onto more modern systems. I think that's going to be a continued challenge and something that's going to require investment. And that investment is coming at a challenging time for the economics of retailers and e-commerce companies. Just given what's happening out in the world, everybody's driving towards profitability. Which means you're not always investing driving towards short-term profitability, which means you're not always investing in what the future is going to look like. That bill is going to come due one day, and you're going to have to, invest and modernize all of these different retail systems. I think another big challenge is for those who are investing in the space, the proliferation of all the different tools and platforms that are available, and how you stitch all of these things together to create a singular, coherent view of your business. And that can be tough as tools start to specialize. You have to be really skilled at sticking all of that data together and being able to connect the dots across all of them to tell the story.
Of course. And obviously, we don't want to kind of leave this on a bad note. So what are kind of the exciting opportunities that are coming with data in the retail section in the next few years?
Yeah. So, I would say, basically everything that I just said is also very exciting because we are definitely in a world where we've got so many new tools that are being built that allow us to solve problems. So, things like using cameras to understand flow through stores, where, 5 or 6 years ago, that was a lot more difficult to do, to understand traffic patterns, to understand, what people are looking at, how should we design stores more efficiently. I think that there is a lot of great talent that is being developed right now. And that will make, it's going to help drive success inside of data, inside of retailers, because, the talent's advancing. I think AI is going to be a big game changer in a couple different ways. One, from a customer service perspective, but also from a customer experience perspective. So, being able to try on different things in the dressing room without being able to try it on. You're looking at yourself in the mirror, and all of a sudden you see a shirt pop up. And hey, what's going to be weird? These pants that you're wearing. I think we're going to see a lot more cool, innovative technology like that. And then driving back towards more efficient operations. So understanding customer preferences better, understanding how to forecast and plan and buy better. So you don't have so much inventory on the shelf at the end of the season that you then have to mark down and sell it for a lower margin.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Matt. It's been really lovely chatting with you. And everyone go check out the podcast with Martin.
All right. Thank you so much, Emily.
That's okay. thank you so much for joining us on Data and Beauty by Numbers. We're really glad to have you on board and get chatting to you about some of the interesting things that are happening in the data space at the moment. Do you want to start by kind of introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so thanks, Emily, for having me. Lovely to speak with you. So my name is Irina Mihai. I currently work as Director Data, Marketing Analytics and Decision Science at Adidas. And I'm basically supporting the EU e-commerce organization of the company. And I have around 11 years of experience in data analytics and data science combined.
Oh, fabulous. We're really excited to have you on board and kind of get chatting to you about all the exciting things that you're getting up to at the moment. Do you want to start off by kind of tell us some of the exciting ways that you're using data and analytics in retail at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, we're actually, as a company, on a journey to future-proof our data foundation across the entire company. So we're moving to a lakehouse infrastructure, which will be a solid basis for future data and analytics and data science use cases, also enabled by a more streamlined governance structure. So that's on the data foundation side. Besides that, we're using analytics and data science in really a lot of ways as a company. But if I have to really boil it down and tell you a bit more about how my team is contributing to those, I think one big aspect is that we're contributing to optimizing media investments for incrementality. So not necessarily only attribution, but incrementality of our marketing spends. Through test and learn programs, through media mix modeling, together also with other teams within the company. So we really try to pick the right methodology based on what is really most robust for a certain hypothesis, how to test it, validate it, and based on the business question at hand. So what gets me excited as well is that we have in-house the right capabilities to design and execute quite complex methodologies for testing, which I think other companies do pay outside consultancies to do. Mm-hmm. So it's really, I think, an exciting environment that we have the capability to do that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And another big aspect is optimizing the discounts or markdowns. As a company, that's quite a big priority for us this year. Our profitability is really the focus. So with ML-based solutions, we are aiming to bring visibility to decision makers regarding different markdown levels and what impact those have on things like demand, but also, and that's actually more important, profitability KPIs and trying to reduce cannibalization between the markdown products and the full price products. So really protecting our profitability and maintaining a premium brand, basically.
Of course. And how are you finding getting on with that so far?
Yeah, so so far we have some promising capabilities which we are in the process of launching. And we are constantly refining those because, as you know, with any forecasting capability, whenever you have past data that maybe was predicting pretty well at some point and the business changes the strategy, you do need to incorporate that. So we're taking kind of a proof of concept approach and getting some early wins and then iterating on those and really bringing scalable solutions to our business partners.
Yeah, no, definitely. It sounds all very, very exciting. What are the kind of biggest challenges you can see kind of facing the retail industry at the moment in terms of data?
Yeah, so I think just generally there's across the board rising costs in terms of manufacturing, logistics on the one hand, and on the other hand, there's generally consumer confidence is also going down, not only in retail, but just across multiple industries. So consumers are being more careful about what they spend money on. So it's kind of a challenge, I think, for a lot of retail companies to maintain a good level of profitability. Yeah. So that's where supply chain analytics plays a role, pricing analytics plays a role, but also having a strong brand and really speaking to the consumer, either existing consumers or potential consumers, across multiple touch points, and ideally one-to-one. So personalization still plays a big role.
Yeah.
And for us, we obviously aim to maintain relevancy and brand desire across multiple touch points, which can be a challenge because we are operating in an environment where privacy is now getting increased importance, and it's more top of mind for consumers than it used to be. There's also some technical developments that make things let's say retargeting more difficult, or just tracking consumers across devices or across touch points more difficult, like third-party cookies are being deprecated, ITP from Apple, all big developments, and just generally consumer privacy concerns that were not as prevalent in the past, but now they're much more prevalent. So companies do need to make sure that they protect the privacy of consumers, but also maintain relevancy across touch points. So things like having a first-party data strategy are more important. Contextual advertising is more important than it used to be in the past. So it's just about adapting to these new realities.
100%. I think as well we've seen a lot of brands recently kind of suffer from issues they've had with their data privacy, and kind of it being, I don't want to say any names, but like a social media platform was obviously they had issues with data privacy, and they were using kind of the microphones and things to listen into people's conversations, which obviously I think they were fined in total. I think it was about 9, I don't want to say billion or million, but it was a lot of money, because it's obviously an invasion. Yeah, too much money. It's kind of like an invasion into someone's privacy. But yeah, I suppose you've got to navigate the way to still make your brand kind of reach those customers without invading their privacy, really.
Yeah, exactly. So being very mindful of the privacy preferences of consumers, and being upfront what data you collect, for what purpose, for how long you will keep that data. And even being able to, so giving in the hands of consumers tools to understand what data is collected about them, and how to delete it as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously alongside those challenges, I think there's sometimes challenges around attracting the best talent. What do you think are the biggest challenges when it comes to attracting that talent?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'm actually in the process of hiring an offshore team in India at the moment. I'm hiring 5 roles. 4 of them are individual contributing roles in data science and data engineering and ML ops, and 1 of them is a senior data scientist or senior manager of data science. And I have to say, for the senior role, it was much more difficult than I expected. Because for this role, we're looking for a good blend of both technical expertise in machine learning and leadership skills, because the person would be expected to build the team, to set the right culture, keep the team together, and everyone is new. So we do need a strong leadership capability. The process of hiring for that role hopefully will be closed very soon. So at the leadership level, it's definitely very difficult if you're looking for this blend of skill set, both technical skills and leadership skills.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think as well, to find a female in the senior leadership role that is both technical and has the skills of someone that can be a leader as well, it kind of intensifies that issue a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, indeed. So gender diversity is really important for me personally, and also for the company. So we did aim to have a diverse pool of candidates, which we had to some extent. It did reflect, I think, generally that in the data science world, there's definitely percentage-wise more men than women.
Yeah.
So for the individual contributor roles, we did have some female candidates that went through the interview process, and in the end, it didn't really work out, simply because we noticed that the male candidates had a better expertise for what we were looking for. Unfortunately, for the senior position, we didn't really have any female candidates in the pool, actually. So
that's a shame.
That was a bit unfortunate. And it also, I think it also relates to some extent, as I said, to the split, percentage split in the industry, but also to the mobility aspect, because we are offering hybrid roles with needing to be 2 days in the office. And although in my network, I do have some very good female leaders in data science, they were not really mobile to move. So it was definitely, a factor.
I think as well is I did a LinkedIn post earlier today about the importance of there was something like only 20% of the data and analytics professionals are female, which is hoping to rise to 40% in the next, I think it's 2 to 5 years or something like that. But that is really, really low. And I think there's lots of different contributing factors to that. I think it's lack of women who are studying kind of STEM courses at university. It's definitely a hybrid thing as well. It's some women need to be at home with their kids and things like that. I think, you're right. There's definitely a few factors in there. Why do you think it's so important to build a kind of gender diverse team?
I think not only gender diversity, but just diversity in general. It's been proven that diverse teams are better performing because you have different perspectives, people coming from different backgrounds. You can have conversations that you normally wouldn't have if you are a fully homogeneous team. So that's one aspect of higher performance. And secondly, us as a company, we also serve a very diverse consumer base, and generally we strive to reflect this consumer base in our teams, because otherwise, how can we serve our consumers if we have only one way of thinking? That just doesn't work. It's not long term, it will not work. So that's really an important aspect for us.
Yeah, no, of course. And for any kind of females wanting to kind of follow your path and get into kind of a successful career journey like yourself, what kind of advice would you have?
I would say follow your passion. It's data analytics, data science can be a very rewarding field, but it can also be sometimes a bit frustrating because you are sometimes, let's say, confronted with some business situation or some situations where there's maybe lack of proper communication, or the expectations can be very different from the business. So sometimes it can be a bit challenging in that perspective. But if you are passionate about the field, continue to build your skills, even if you don't have perhaps a formal education. I've also met people that don't have a formal education in the field. Educate yourself by doing different online courses, showing your passion, have, let's say, passion projects where you use your skills, your newly acquired skills, and you can also bring it in relation to what companies would need. Right? Let's say if you want to get into data visualization, I think that's pretty easy to display. There's even like public Tableau galleries where you can exhibit, or you can get in touch on LinkedIn with thought leaders, get into conversations, get yourself noticed. And the data analytics, data science is a field that is moving very quickly. No one knows everything. So don't let yourself be discouraged by all the new information, all the opinions that you see. Take it step by step, remain passionate, remain curious, and keep on learning, keep on contributing to conversations, get in touch with people that perhaps are in the roles that you're targeting, that you might be targeting in 5 years' time. And just keep at it, be optimistic, be positive, and take action.
Yeah, I think that's some really good advice. I think everyone in our kind of data community is always willing to help, from anyone that I've ever kind of spoken to or dealt with. So I think there's some really good ways to kind of start their journey. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely chatting with you.
Thanks as well, Emily. It's been lovely to chat with you as well. And I hope this does reach other aspiring female data scientists, analysts, data specialists, and they keep at it. They don't get discouraged.
Hi, Martin. Thank you so much for joining me on this Retail and Data interview series. I'm really excited to have a chat with you and kind of get stuck into the questions that we've got today. I hope you're well.
Oh, thank you, Emily. I was looking forward to this. I always like minds talking on topics of my passion. It's just fun.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. So obviously your former role was former director of AI and machine learning at Levi's, which is obviously a really exciting role. I just wanted to I want you to set the scene for me, really. What are kind of the exciting ways that you have used data in the retail industry?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. Boy, so the initiative opportunities are all over the place. I mean, from predictive analytics and how you can use these analytics to do forecasts, optimize pricing. Shifting gears in another direction, you could go into personalization for the consumer experience, making a very unique experience for the consumer to be more immersive, and you could get into supply chain. Playing with optimization, looking at better ways to sourcing your materials ethically. You could go into the social media world and see how your brand is doing. Do new measures and maybe apply automation to that. And some of the fun stuff coming up and links to generative or augmented reality also, and maybe putting those together with generative and augmented reality programs to help promote your brand. Lots of fun stuff.
And what are some of the areas where you've used generative AI in retail then?
Yeah, so specifically, I think opportunities that I've been experimenting with, for my purview as looking at it, rapid prototyping examples. How can I take something from what looks like a public source and manipulate it to do what I want to do, maybe build some custom capabilities from that, and maybe lead you down the path of how I would play personalization on top of existing models using some generative techniques. Clearly marketing collateral has a strong your tone and taking things that you've measured as highly successful. And another great area, and this is one I'm kind of excited looking back early in my career when I did work on software for call centers and how that software works and the infrastructure and call centers with 500 people in a geographic area. Boy, there's a great opportunity for optimization of call centers and the scripts and how you manage the scripts, and maybe close to real time promotion of better dialogue with the customer. They tend to be a little bit impersonal, and this may give a little more personality to when a consumer is actually coming in either via voice or text to get help, and great opportunity there.
And why do you think it is kind of so important for brands within the retail and industry to really kind of be implementing generative AI?
Well, there's the nirvana of doing more with less, and leveraging the tooling that's there. Instead of having to code up things manually, you can find solutions that can mold into your environment a little easier. You might want to tune it to be more specific to your industry, and giving responses of a consuming experience. You can also listen for tone, in a language model example. Get some customer sentiment without requesting it. It's a unique opportunity to measure value of the brand just using language.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And how do you think a kind of business's data culture impacts the way that you get employees kind of involved in these new data initiatives?
Wow, that hits hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. So, as we know, data should be treated as a strategic asset. It's the fuel that goes in the engine, and what you do with it, how you use it, how you leverage it is so critical to everyone. And, not to be too cliche as data is the new oil or data is the new gold. Data's been the gold all along. It's been always there. It's how you leverage it, and you can build features on top of it and drive second order solutions. And some of the magic on a global company are, the governance and regulatory concerns about private information and who can see it. And you can go all over the place with where data culture is so critical. And for people that generate solutions using data, you want to give confidence that those solution creators will have access to the information needed to be successful in their roles. They can be strategic with it. They can measure it. They can manipulate it, and they can present it.
I think as well, having the right kind of data culture and the business treating data as an asset kind of affects the way that you can attract data talent as well. Have you come across that?
So yes, no. Let me clarify the question answer combination. One is someone that's well knowledged in understanding maybe some of the challenges they had prior to an organization and coming into a new organization would know to ask these questions. Yeah. However, the people that generally don't have those visibility points or the pain points at their forefront, they're not always asking those questions. And that is really a strong understanding of where they're going and knowing that they're going to a culture of a company that may have silos in the business. IT is a critical element, and it also is a critical element to the governance and control. And you want to be able to have innovation. And this is where more mature companies have challenges. Startups come up with the ideas of how to solve this, and more mature companies typically pick up on these solutions and then can run with them.
I think, again, that kind of shows why it's so important to have people at the kind of C-suite level that understand the importance of being kind of data-driven and treating data as an asset.
Absolutely. You want the transparency for the people that need to leverage it, use it, measure it, share it, make decisions on it. Collaboration is so critical that without the data, the collaboration doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. And how do you, obviously you were kind of at director level in some big companies before. How have you found it kind of attracting the right talent, and how do you think it's best to build a kind of effective data science and AI team? Sorry, you get my words out.
So let me see if I can rephrase the question back. You're asking how is it to build a strong team that's focused on AI?
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's the innovation, and the innovation side is, that curiosity, the inquisitiveness, the desire to find new ways to do things. That is a little bit of a magic point, finding that. And then you want to mesh that with definitely some hard skills of certain ways of working with the tools of the trade, the type of informational tools they need, the data manipulation tools, the visualization tools. And then you leverage into the SDLC side, the software development lifecycle, and magic to find that characteristic across a data science team. When you run across SDLC enabled data scientists, you want to hire them. You can mold them better, but you want to hire them because you're not starting from ground zero. And when I talk about SDLC, I'm talking about a builder mentality. I'm talking about those that just they refine it, build it, make it better. They write their own organizational tests, the unit tests, the functional tests, data validation, data quality tests. That is huge. And if you find people that can go full cycle like that, once again, I say you go hire them.
Yeah, you need to make sure. And how do you think you kind of retain talent like that?
For me, it's been fairly easy to retain builders. And when I say builders, people that enjoy putting things out, putting them together, build the next thing, maintain it, fix it, make it better. We talk the same DNA. We talk about how we can improve it. And so with that, you also empower learning, no conditions on learning. You empower collaboration and fuel the next generation of team. And so ultimately, I'm trying to train people to take my role. Yeah. And if I do that, and I'm doing it from the heart, I'm empowering the next generation, be at a company. And when I change my role and I tap back to the prior company and they recognize I've invested in them, they typically follow me very, very quickly to the next org.
That's perfect. That's very ideal. And in terms of the challenges that we're kind of facing with data, do you think what challenges do you think are facing the industry in the next kind of 5 to 10 years?
So there's lots of challenges. The first challenge today is the one everybody's running around, the generative side, and how can I use this today? And a lot of people are scrambling for the same, economic solutions and the same ways of solving problems. And how can I do more with less? Ultimately, the battle's going to be won by builders, those that can build it, those that can monetize on how they build it, how they uniquely build it for a specific functional characteristic, capability, and deployment. And if it doesn't deploy somewhere, and that could be virtually or retained, it has to have some containment. So a solution that's purely a software as a service may now have to shift back to a repatriation type solution where you are basically acquiring virtual, what do they call it? Virtual solutions, marketplace solutions, like from the cloud providers. And generally, most of the cloud providers are coming to the table with much of the same type of solutions. Yeah. So it's a competitive landscape right now for who's going to win the battle of the power tools.
And in terms of things that we've got to kind of look forward to, do you think there's anything that's really exciting that's coming along?
Yes. So with all this great innovation, there's going to be a new wave of governance, security, compliance, and overlays, and maybe some market players that come into those niches directly. And I see that as an opportunity to be one of those players as an enabler of the technology at its finest.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Martin. It's been really lovely to get your insights from someone who's obviously been in the industry for a really, really long time. So I appreciate that very much. It's been lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Emily, and I look forward to talking again soon.
Hello, and welcome to our second London event for 2023, the Driven by Data Roundtable.
Hi, Giulio. Welcome to the Driven by Data, Beauty by Data interview series. I'm really excited to have you on. Do you want to start a bit about telling us about who you are and a bit about Deepgears?
Absolutely. So first off, thank you for having me. My name is Giulio, and I'm the co-founder of Deepgears. Deepgears is a virtual try-on software that allows users and online shoppers to virtually try on any garment in any size that they would like on a digital avatar of themselves that has their exact body measurements. So we started the company a couple of years ago, just from the classic story of two friends in a garage type of thing. And then we moved on now to having raised our pre-seed fund and now keep growing the company as we speak.
It's very exciting. And do you want to kind of set the scene for me? What exciting ways are you guys using data at the moment?
Absolutely. So we're actually using data in a variety of ways. So first off, the most important thing that we do is we extract a completely new range of data, if you like, which is essentially biometric data of the users. So we use this data to rebuild their avatars with their exact body measurements, as we spoke before. And so this is a completely new way to interact with user, understanding more about the users that buy online for brands. Now, something very interesting also that we do is that we analyze for our brand and for our clients this data and essentially the body shape of people and what they like and they don't like depending on body shape. So we do all sorts of advanced analytics there with AI to understand more trends in terms of how to optimize inventory and what is being produced depending on what is being sold and the kind of fitting that they have on specific users and type of body types, but as well as understanding what are the items that are more sold or most looked at and what doesn't work or what works.
Yeah. No, it's really exciting. And what is kind of the impact that this use of AI is having on the fashion industry and kind of will do within the next 10 years?
I think, so broadly speaking, the impact of AI on fashion is revolutionary. It will extremely and completely change how brands think today and will have to think in the future about how to kind of build a better intersection between fashion and technology. Most of the big brands tend to be very progressive today and they're already thinking ahead, but there is a long tail of, the people that are not, the brands that are not just the luxury brands that will need to get into this thinking to unleash the power of AI. So broadly speaking, the way it's going to impact is going to impact in several ways. So number one, it will be a catalyst to better engagement for the users, which is key. Brand engagement and the ability to communicate better the message of the brands, what the brand stands for, is crucial. And so targeting and personalization will be a key theme going on for the next 10 years. There is a big element in terms of sustainability, obviously. So sustainability is so the fashion industry is one of the largest polluters in the world, and it's expected to contribute more than 25% of all the CO2 emissions in 2030, which is mental. And so it's crucial for brands to think about data strategies and strategies in general to optimize this. So starting with inventory management, production optimization, obviously sales and reduction of returns. All of this is levers that can be pulled and where data can be extremely useful for brands. And lastly, to completely change the way that people shop online, right? This is what Deepgears is doing, and this is what the metaverse companies are doing that we partnered with, for example. And this will be the next phase and the next kind of evolution of how we shop online.
No, it's really exciting. I think to be able to go onto a kind of online website and try something on without having to physically go into store is very revolutionary. I think it's really exciting. But I suppose with those benefits, what are the kind of difficulties of implementing that AI into kind of online retail stores?
It's so there is a few complexities. I think you pointed out exactly. I think this is a super exciting time for the industry. I think realistically we are the onset of this revolution that is coming. So since Facebook changed its name to Meta, that has been kind of the initial catalyst that drew the attention of brands to the metaverse, to what we need to do in the next phase, what data do we need to collect, how do we need to interact with this data, how we can analyze this data, what we can extract more than what we do already. So it's super exciting time. But this, as a for any exciting time, it comes with complexities and challenges. And so just going back to your question, there are a few complexities that I think are existing today and will exist in the future. And we can kind of think about these complexities from two angles. One, which is the more company readiness angle, and the second one is, broadly speaking, technological evolution angle. So starting with the first one, so the company, so the kind of internal, external, if you like. So looking at the internal side of things, big challenge is having a C-level kind of team that understand the impact of AI, what it means, and what needs to be done at a very big strategic level, and what kind of data need to be unleashed there. This is the big one. So having people that are ready and can understand what potential and how the market is going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years and beyond. So this is number one, C-level readiness. Then there is obviously an investment side of things. This essentially means, evolving new AI technologies, stay up to date with the research and development requires budget. That's the reality of things. Requires a lot of budget. And so that budget, it kind of aligns with the first point. It's kind of an evolution from the first point that I just made, but it's very important that there is enough budget and people and companies are not constrained by it in a way, because it will be what will position, it's essentially what positions them today, is investment that is done today to position them well in the next 10 years. And the last one is building up a culture that attracts talent. So attracting talent is one of the biggest challenges that any business has, broadly speaking, in any field. But obviously, because fashion tends to be a very creative industry, tends to be a very, specifically suited to a certain type of people and persona and character, people and companies need to build a culture that allows also another kind of set of people to come in and allow them to work on interesting projects and things that are interesting. And so that's, I think, on an inside company level is kind of the key three areas and challenges. Looking instead on the external side of things is the evolution of technology. And this is a market-wide kind of constraint and challenge, which means how quickly can the market evolve and how quickly the new technologies can evolve that can be then implemented for the right use cases.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. In terms of the right culture, how do you go about building the right culture to attract the right talent for what you are looking for?
That's a super interesting question. So what does it mean to build culture, right? We can start on a very philosophical level, if you like. What does it mean to build culture? For me, build culture is what are those activities and way of behaving that are common inside the company. That's what culture is to me. Which means what is the common shared belief and shared values that everybody needs to have to an extent or another. And so that's how you build kind of cultural fit and alignment. And I think if we look at the kind of a lower dimension, so how do you build culture? Then it's specific for a data team, an AI team. What it means is to have projects that are challenging for those people. So people working in the field are great minds that need to work on interesting projects and interesting challenges. This is obviously one of the key aspects, broadly speaking. So you build it with that, so giving interesting work. You build in giving understanding what it means for those people that are potentially used to work in certain settings to align those settings that are used to work on with a potentially different company setting that fashion brand might have. And last but not least, which always also is a challenge to that, kind of coming up with a budget for talent hiring that is right to attract them and retain them also.
I think it's so difficult in our industry because obviously the talent can be quite expensive. So attracting the right talent, having the culture to kind of retain them and keep them there and keep it within your budget is all kind of challenges that we face. In terms of when it comes to retaining the talent that you've attracted in, how do you go about that?
So it kind of aligns with building a culture that works, right? If you build a strong culture where people enjoy working in a given setting and environment, then it's what retains talent. So obviously there is the economical component, the economics which needs to work. You can't be the one offering 50, 60% lower the market price, because you may attract talent for a year and then people need to pay their bills and they're going to be like, well, actually that doesn't really work for me. So that's obviously one. So I think if we want to hypothetically think on a level playing field where the economics is taken care of, then how do you retain talent then? That's the real interesting question. And I think to me it's about two things. So number one, especially for young startups like us, is kind of having a company that is in the right trajectory of growth, which is exciting, but also being part of a team. So first of all, be a part of a company which is exciting, in an interesting mission. Second, being in a team that works and in a team happy. And the third, which is last but not least, having again interesting job. If you really do something that you feel is pushing the boundaries, I think is what allow people to stick with it. So building up on our example, we were the first one in the market to build a completely programmatic and kind of automatic way to fit the garments on top of avatars in 3D in a completely procedural way. And so this has been a project that allowed us to attract and retain the best talents, because it's just something that was never done. And it's generally something extremely interesting that has potential application across a variety of dimensions, from cinema to obviously fashion, which is what we're doing, to completely, kind of outside scheme of things in terms of digital fashion, runaways, digital projects that can all be done with this new technology.
No, 100%. It's a really exciting idea, and I'm so pleased I got the chance to chat with you today. But thank you so much for your time, Giulio. And it
was a pleasure.
Share your knowledge with everyone.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.